Tonight, it's a new edition of the Bigfoot Journal, your twice-monthly Bigfoot news update. What happened and what's ahead in Bigfoot research and news, only on the Untold Radio Network. The Bigfoot Journal is now. With your host, Mike Luci.
And let's get rolling. What's going on, everyone? Thanks for tuning in to episode 14 of the Bigfoot Journal, your twice monthly review of what happened and what's ahead in the Bigfoot world. If it's your first time watching, let me tell you how this works. We sweep the internet twice a month, highlight the top Bigfoot reports and news stories, and share our findings in a fast-paced 30-minute time frame. Here are this episode's top stories. Lights in the woods. They've been reported all over the world, but do they have Bigfoot ties? Our lead story dives into the history and potential explanations of the strange phenomena, plus we'll hear from a few witnesses who've seen them firsthand. We've got the full scoop on an AI program that identifies animals in trail camera photos. You'll find out how it works, and, of course, what kind of potential game changer it can be in Bigfoot research. We've also got some eerie footage from upstate New York in our report roundup. If it's real, does it show a squatch, another cryptid, or something more supernatural? There's a lot going on in the Bigfoot world, so let's bring you up to speed. Episode 14 starts now.
Bigfoot and Science is now.
On February 28th, the BFRO published an interesting report from central Pennsylvania. It describes one hunter's alleged Class A encounter at a game land about 3.5 miles northeast of Penn State University. The report also mentions some other experiences he had in this area, like rock throws, feelings of dread, and most intriguing, seeing a ball of blue light. Although there's no additional mention of the latter detail, it's not the first time strange lights and orbs have been mentioned in Bigfoot reports. In this two-parter, our lead story will be examining this mysterious phenomenon. Part 1 will give a quick overview of this anomaly and hear some first-hand accounts that potentially show Bigfoot-related activity. Coming in all shapes, sizes, and colors, they're described as flashes, streaks, floating orbs, and many other forms. The origins, depictions, and meanings of these lights have been debated for years. Stories of strange lights have been reported throughout history from different cultures all over the world. In the U.S. alone, a few well-documented cases include the Brown Mountain Lights in North Carolina, Paulding Light in Michigan, and Marfa Lights in Texas. Our own Mike Luci says he's witnessed this anomaly on 2 separate occasions, once in 2009 and the other time in 2023.
I was on a Bigfoot investigation, actually. I was on a Bigfoot investigation, and we were in northeast, eastern Pennsylvania, and we had a few teams kind of spread out along this hillside. Mine was, we were kind of the middle, maybe closer towards the bottom of it, and we were looking straight out, and we saw just, a few flashes and glows kind of up in the trees, but then all of a sudden we just saw this really brief, really bright, just flash, it almost looked like a star had gotten taken from the sky and just briefly popped up, floating in the tree line for maybe fraction of a second and then disappeared. So that was that one. The first one happened, it was either September or October 2009. I was a sophomore in college. This was out in Western New York, and I'd gone with a few friends of mine to this cemetery that was supposedly, was supposed to be super haunted. We were in the cemetery, we were staring out in the tree line. It was maybe a few hundred yards away, and all three of us, we just see just this light, it slowly appeared, moving from left to right, and then it disappeared. And it kind of looked like someone was holding a lantern. And then a few seconds later, we saw the same light again, did the same thing, only this time it was significantly closer. Then a few seconds again, we saw that same exact light, but it was significantly closer. And at that point, that kind of freaked us out, so we all just bounced and ran back to the car.
Some popular theories believe these strange lights are naturally occurring, while others associate them with extraterrestrial or paranormal activity, including Bigfoot. We spoke with Bigfoot researcher Lynette Hounshell, who says she's seen these strange lights during investigations more than once.
I was with a group. We were on private land. We had separated two Bigfoot, and they were angry. were calling back and forth. And all of a sudden I see this look like a green glowing ball bouncing across the creek. It goes into the evergreens. And the lady sitting beside me, she's like, "You're going to think I'm crazy, but did anybody just see a green glowing ball go bouncing across the creek into the trees?" And I admitted that, yes, I saw it and I was afraid to say anything. Another time I was on an expedition. I was peeping out the corner of my tent window because we had 2 juveniles messing around the tent. But the interesting thing was there were 2 orbs. One was kind of a reddish orange and the other was more of a golden color. And they were bouncing over the top of like every tent. Like they were just checking around everything and went all the way around the campsite. And then another time I was on another expedition on private land, and this lady was out in the field by herself, and there were orbs moving around in this field. And one came as close to almost being on her shoulder. And we're like radioing her, telling her, "Hey, turn around, there's an orb." And then it went on into the tree line and was bouncing around in the trees and then eventually went away.
Despite the bizarre and compelling allure of these strange lights, skeptics have proposed a number of natural explanations such as bioluminescence from bugs and fungi, swamp gases, eye shine, and ball lightning. Man-made causes might include lights from cars, flashlights, campfires, aircrafts, and lights from structures like towers and buildings. But what if you can rule out all these explanations? That seemed to be the case for researcher Matt Arner, who witnessed this anomaly during a Bigfoot investigation that also took place in central Pennsylvania.
We were going out to an area called Catawissa. It's a mountain that's in probably what I would consider the western border of the Poconos, kind of more into central Pennsylvania. We started hearing radio transmissions that there was some activity being noted from the members that went down to the logging road area. So when that was going on, I was scanning into the woodline, and I can only look so far before there was a drop off. As I'm scanning through the woods, I saw a light. And as I look closer at this light, there's no one there. I would say this was probably anywhere from 75 yards away from us. You can see a distinct perfect circle for this light. I've seen a lot of flashlights in the woods. I've seen a lot of different light anomalies. This was a first for me. I was able to get everyone to come over to that area, but pretty much as soon as we were able to get eyes on it, within probably about 10 to 15 seconds, it disappeared. If somebody was walking in that area, this is off trail. It's a fairly remote and rugged area, so there's a lot of rocks. There's a lot of low-lying brush that you're going to have to navigate around to go in a straight line. This just moved so smoothly. It reminded me a little bit of somebody walking around with a lantern, but this was no lantern that I saw.
Stories like these make you wonder if a pattern exists between strange lights and Bigfoot activity. If the two are related, then how are they connected? And what could it reveal about the Bigfoot mystery? When we return for part 2, we'll cover why this could be and examine some other potential explanations behind this baffling anomaly.
For centuries, we've heard tales of Bigfoot, Sasquatch, the Hairy Man, Mountain Devils, Grassman, all these names with different generations experiencing different forms of evolving science. But where does this all array to exactly? We've come a long way at finding the most technical advanced forms of display. But in the case of Bigfoot, why haven't we collected valid evidence that appeases both the believers and the skeptics? To kick things off, let's first define the term evidence. It's a body of facts or information that indicates the validity of a belief or proposition. Evidence isn't proof, but leads to it, which declares or helps establish something as absolute fact. The Bigfoot field has a contestable history of evidence collection, with grainy photos and shaky videos generally being the best it has to offer. But over 99% of the time, if not deemed inconclusive, it's because they've been debunked. Take the 2013 Mississippi Skunk Ape video, for example. For years, it's widely considered amongst the strongest pieces of video evidence until it was revealed that the footage was tied to a television series called Beast of the Bayou. Josh Highcliffe, the man who allegedly recorded this video, was actually the name of a character in a show. Let's even consider the controversial Todd Standing photographs. With respect to his supporters, these pictures are often scrutinized due to what many deem as their unrealistic looking fur and facial features. Cases like these underscore a devastating reality in Bigfoot research: the irreparable damage caused by hoaxing. However, when it comes to the lack of quality evidence, hoaxing is only part of the problem. One major piece of skeptical criticism is the abundance of eyewitness stories that many believers consider crucial evidence. Skeptics note how many of them seem more geared towards entertainment than being genuine. While I do agree with skeptics about the storytelling, there's a specific detail in them that might explain this glaring issue. Hypothetically, if someone sees a Bigfoot, their first reaction will probably be an overwhelming sense of fear, excitement, or shock. And by the time they regain control of their senses, even if they manage to get their phone out, the figure in question is gone, leaving them with just a story. But what about those who just want a clear image? Well, during an alleged encounter, the height of adrenaline may cause symptoms like trembling limbs and distorted senses. I wouldn't underestimate how much of these physical and cognitive reactions can keep you from completing the otherwise practical task of taking a simple photo or video. It's easy to critique these accounts or backstories behind those vague images saying you'd have moved closer or stood your ground. But imagining and actually being in that situation are impossible to compare. Shifting gears, let's consider when researchers manage to submit potential evidence for analysis. More often than not, the results come back as inconclusive or are subject to ambiguous interpretation. Even when knowingly studying DNA of known animals, it's not unheard of for those samples to come back inconclusive. And I can understand why this does happen. The process of DNA collection is extremely delicate. It should be handled by seasoned professionals, as the slightest misstep could contaminate a sample, assuming it has enough material to analyze. But in the case of potential Bigfoot DNA, they are handled by amateur researchers who likely know nothing about proper protocol. I also think it's worth touching on the conspiracy side, so bear with me on this one. Some say the evidence exists, but it's supposedly being withheld. I've spoken with multiple prominent researchers and pioneers in Bigfoot and other cryptid communities who claim a bet without evidence that this is the case. Similar to the last episode's 359 discussion, I do think that local governments and federal agencies are capable of full Bigfoot disclosure. It's definitely more conceivable following what we are seeing on the UFO front. But as things presently stand, we are probably not getting that definitive evidence we need in the near future. Unless Bigfoot researchers take a step back to thoroughly evaluate how we identify, collect, and analyze potential evidence, our ability to ever satisfy the burden of proof will always be out of reach. So maybe what we need to consider is not looking for valid evidence of a specific being, but instead look to uncover the truth behind whatever people believe they are seeing in the woods, which many describe with one word: Bigfoot.
Tech and innovation is now.
So back in episode 12, we examined the topic of trail cameras and if one has ever caught the image of a Bigfoot. Well, there's a new development that could potentially put this argument to rest. Google has publicly released an open-source AI-backed model that's designed to identify animal species in trail camera photos. We'll explain how the AI works, where it's available, and most importantly, if this program can potentially help identify the image of a Bigfoot. Called SpeciesNet, the AI aims to help wildlife researchers sift through high volumes of trail camera photos more efficiently. Instead of individually sorting through scores of trail camera images, SpeciesNet can automatically scan them, filter out blanks, and uniquely identify animal species along with non-animal objects like cars. According to Google, SpeciesNet has over 2,000 different labels for indexing images that cover all ranks of the animal classification system. Google touts SpeciesNet's ability to recognize a broad range of animal species with astonishing accuracy. Not only can it reportedly detect over 99% of images containing animals, but the AI correctly makes its predictions more than 98% of the time. This model can also make species-level predictions with up to 94.5% accuracy. Google has been using SpeciesNet since 2019 in an initiative called Wildlife Insights, a collaborative platform for researchers to share, identify, and analyze wildlife images. Many of the tools that Wildlife Insights uses are powered by SpeciesNet, which reportedly gather data from over 65 million images. Google believes SpeciesNet will allow developers, researchers, and startups to scale and streamline wildlife monitoring, use it in their own projects, and even make improvements to identify more animal species with greater accuracy. With the goal of supporting biodiversity and conservation efforts, SpeciesNet can be used for a range of purposes, from tracking wildlife in the Amazon and Arctic to identifying animal species in your own backyard. All right, on to the nitty-gritty. How can this program help Bigfoot research? First, I need to make something perfectly clear. Don't expect SpeciesNet to outright identify Bigfoot in a trail camera photo. Remember, Bigfoot is considered an undiscovered species that's not scientifically recognized. The AI has nothing to compare any potential Bigfoot photos with, because according to mainstream science, the species doesn't officially exist. But to that point, it doesn't mean SpeciesNet still can't be useful in this field. What it can do is analyze alleged Bigfoot trail camera photos and potentially debunk them by identifying known animals or rule out the usual suspects. In the latter scenario, I'd imagine it will either label it as a blank, make animal predictions with extremely low percentages, or, if applicable, deem it unknown. To that point, let's say someone runs a potential Bigfoot photo through SpeciesNet that was taken somewhere in North America, and it labels the subject as a non-human grade 8. Then that might be an outcome worth pondering, especially if the image comes from a location with seasonal temperatures, like the Rockies or Northern Appalachians. There's a GitHub repository that provides access to SpeciesNet with specific steps to download and run the model. However, it's important to note that it only offers these resources as code in the Python language. I tried setting everything up on my MacBook, but had a near meltdown when I realized this level of coding was way out of my wheelhouse. So if anyone watching knows how to set this shit up, please send me some feedback. Otherwise, I'd appreciate any help getting it up and running, so I'll keep you updated on my progress. On this show, we've previously discussed a few different ways that AI technology can potentially help push the ball further in the field of Bigfoot research. And while resources like SpeciesNet probably won't be the key to outright solving this mystery, it can definitely help in other ways, like providing clarification on ambiguous photos by separating the fakes and misidentifications from more likely Bigfoot images through strategies like debunking and ruling out likely suspects until one plausible option potentially remains.
Report Roundup is now.
Alrighty, and this is our report roundup. If they're out there, it's our part of the show that updates you on the latest Bigfoot reports for major databases and across the internet. We've got a Class A sighting coming out of Arkansas, some eerie footage that was taken in upstate New York, plus we're covering some compelling stories coming out of Texas and the Northwest. In addition to the one that kicked off our lead story, we're also covering another recent BFRO report. It describes one duck hunter's alleged sighting that happened in December 2012. The witness says he was with his dad and best friend at a wildlife management area in northeast Arkansas. The witness was retrieving a downed duck and allegedly spotted a large figure that he claims was about 9 feet tall. The witness says he first spotted it about 150 yards away, swaying in and out of trees. The figure started moving towards him and stopped about 30 yards from his location. He exchanged glances with the figure for about 30 seconds before it released a deep huff-like sigh. The figure then began to walk away and kept looking over its shoulder until it was out of sight. The witness claims his cousin casted a print the day before his sighting in that same area. He also says his dad had a previous sighting as well. We found a few reports on Facebook that we thought were worth covering. This first one comes from the Facebook page of a researcher named Dawn McCanley Jones. Dawn published some possible prints on March 5th that she reportedly found at a, quote, undiscovered spooky area beyond Dead Man's Mountain. It looks like she found two prints that measured about 15 inches with a 36-inch stride. In these pictures, Dawn uses her cane for reference, which she says is about 32 inches long. She even traces out the prints in this next photo. This next one comes from the Disbelief Paranormal official Facebook page. A user claims his friend in upstate New York set up a camera after their dog kept reacting to something at night and allegedly found this bizarre clip. The timestamp says this happened on January 29, 2017 at 11:03 p.m. The full clip is about 10 seconds. You can see a humanoid figure run from left to right. The figure is only visible for about 2 to 3-ish seconds before it seemingly disappears. It looks to be a solid dark color with long lanky limbs and whitish eyeshine. You can also see a light shining after the figure disappears to the right of the screen. I did some digging and found what appears to be the original post, which comes from the Humanoid Encounters subreddit. It was posted by Redditor jhood3119 on November 2, 2018. It mentions the same details covered in Disbelief Paranormal's Facebook post. Jhood says the light you see was their friend's flashlight, and also claims you can see their friend's dog following the figure. The OP claims this happened in Montgomery, New York, but clarifies it was near the Adirondacks, meaning this probably happened in Montgomery County, which is south of the Adirondacks, and not the actual town of Montgomery, New York, which is in the Hudson Valley. While it's hard to say what the video captured, I think it's important to note this could have easily been faked. Between technology like CGI, artificial intelligence was still kind of around back then, or common features like bizarre effects in video editing, we really can't rule out fabrication. And frankly, if that's what we're seeing, then it probably would have looked much more convincing without the whole disappearing act. Nonetheless, people who commented thought it could be anything from a Bigfoot to extraterrestrial, even a ghost, lizard man, or shapeshifter like a skinwalker. Let us know what you think this figure is, or if you have any information on this footage.
This next one comes from an Instagram post from Boise Bigfoot. We usually tend to shy away from covering these types of outlets, but this one made the cut. Posted on March 3rd, the description says a hiker filmed this video by Priest Lake, Idaho. It shows a human-shaped figure that's a solid black color and is walking through the forest. It appears to be a stabilized version of the original footage, which we could not find. The figure looks slightly hunched over as it moves, and one can argue it pretty much fits the description of a Sasquatch. Priest Lake is located in northern Idaho, and the area apparently has a known history of Bigfoot sightings. Let us know if you have any information on the original video or its backstory. We'll keep you updated on anything new we find.
We are finishing off this roundup with some potential knocking sounds and strange vocals from the Study Sasquatch YouTube channel. Posted on March 3rd by Study Sasquatch, it was recorded by Chris Spencer from the Olympic Project. Chris initially posted the video on his personal YouTube channel and says that these sounds were recorded last summer. The first clip plays a potential knocking sound in between two owl calls.
Northern pygmy owl that's going off when it occurs. I'll go ahead and play it.
The second clip features what Chris describes as suspicious sounding vocals.
Unaltered clip. I'll go ahead and play it.
The Study Sasquatch video says it was taken on the SM4 long-term recorder. The full video provides an in-depth analysis where Chris shares his thoughts on these sounds that I definitely recommend watching. We'll play them for you one more time.
Northern pygmy owl that's going off when it occurs. I'll go ahead and play it. Unaltered clip. I'll go ahead and play it.
Check out the video's description for more information on everything we just covered. Otherwise, that does it for this episode's Report Roundup. Remember, if they are out there, you'll hear about them. And who knows, maybe the next one happens somewhere near you. In part 1 of our Lights in the Woods segment, we discussed how this oddity is depicted and heard a few first-hand accounts, including some with a Bigfoot spin. Part 2 will expand on the potential Bigfoot connection with these strange lights. Plus, our 3 witnesses will share their thoughts on this phenomena and if it has anything to do with Bigfoot. Let's assume you can rule out the natural and man made causes we highlighted in Part 1. With the potential Bigfoot connection in mind, there's a few notable explanations that largely fall in 2 main categories: physical and paranormal. After her harrowing experience, here's what Lynette
And I
thinks could
admitted that,
explain these
yes, I
strange
saw it
lights,
and I
and
was
if
afraid
they
to see it.
are some sort of
Another
Bigfoot
time
related
I
activity.
I've heard different stories of Bigfoot turns into an orb. I don't know if that's true. I don't know what that orb was. And I've also heard, about a relationship between aliens and Bigfoot. Could that have been an alien bouncing around? And that's what that orb was? Not sure. I'm still trying to wrap my mind around the connection to the orb to the Bigfoot. If I think about when we were between the two Bigfoots and they were angry about it and making all kinds of communications back and forth, then all of a sudden you see the big green ball go bouncing across, and then you don't hear anything from that left side anymore. And then there was no more like anxiety between them. So did it morphosize into an orb for safety reasons? And then when I was at the expedition where the 2 orbs were going from tent to tent and camper to camper and around its areas, there were exactly 2 juveniles that came up the incline onto the flat land and was around our tents, and then they were gone and you had orbs. So I'm still trying to wrap my mind around that.
If Bigfoot is a flesh and blood creature, many who entertain this narrative believe these lights or orbs could be some type of bioluminescence or eye shine. The latter is understandably a more graspable possibility. However, if we entertain the bioluminescent angle, a discovery of this magnitude would be pretty groundbreaking and essentially mark the first time a primate was documented to have natural bioluminescence. It could also be a sign that squatches might have certain physical capabilities that we've yet to understand, which could help explain why they've successfully avoided detection all this time. The paranormal explanations are definitely more bizarre. Some in this camp believe Bigfoot can physically produce these light forms. There's even a few theories that squatches can manipulate light in their environment. Others think that squatches can shapeshift into orbs or streaks of light. And of course, we can't forget those who think they are evidence of squatches being interdimensional, using portals, that whole spiel. And on the flip side, if these strange lights and orbs have nothing to do with Bigfoot, Mike, who believes that this is the case, clarified why most of those scenarios could still provide an explanation.
If I had to commit to an answer, I would say no, because like when it comes to squatches, I lean more towards the flesh and blood side, and I just don't really see much of like a connection between them and these weird orbs as far as what people might be seeing in these reports. I guess the best explanation I could have is when people have these experiences, just like the way your body reacts, you undergo all these extreme emotions, it distorts your senses, your judgment, your memory, the way you interpret things. Maybe that could play some kind of role. If it's natural, I think probably just like, it's like a combination of things like maybe ground lightning, swamp gases, electric discharge, stuff like that. But then when I think about my 2 experiences, what I saw, I really don't see how any natural explanations could account for that. If it's something maybe on like the supernatural or paranormal side, it could be something like maybe a manifestation of some type of like spirit or paranormal entity, maybe a manifestation of some kind of like energy or something like that. I don't think it's squatches or the cryptids that are physically shapeshifting into these things, just to clarify. It's really something I can't wrap my head around. Something I really don't know much about. So it's really a head scratcher for me.
Matt Orner's stance on this phenomena seems to follow suit.
I try to stay more on the biologic side. So I try to look at things that could be have a natural answer for. And again, I've seen different types of light anomalies that have been caused by natural occurrences. This here, it just makes me scratch my head as to what this was. But I really don't have much of an answer for that. There are a lot of Native American legends about lights in the woods, particularly with the Iroquois. Again, they were a little farther north, but with their confederation, there was tribes that they had brought in to their confederation that would be close to that area. They had talked about orbs. They had talked about lights in the woods. A lot of times they were described as the spirits of the dead passing through. Other times they were described as spirits of an evil that was coming to cause mischief or harm to a village. So what they basically had said was to stay away from the orbs, according to the Iroquois folklore. But as for any sort of natural explanation, it really, again, has me scratch my head.
People have reported seeing mysterious lights in the woods for centuries, including some that link them to potential Bigfoot activity. Regardless of how Bigfoot might tie into this anomaly, it adds another layer of intrigue to the phenomena, and it could show just how much there truly is about our world that remains unknown.
Bigfoot Spotlight is now.
What's going on, everyone? We're back at it for another Bigfoot Spotlight, a part of our show where we highlight a few recent Bigfoot live streams, films, and events. In this episode, we're spotlighting a few recent podcasts, along with 2 upcoming conferences and festivals. So let's do this. The first podcast we're spotlighting is from the YouTube channel Exploring with Bear, titled Most Terrifying Night Winter Camping with Predators. Bigfoot's here. As you know, I've been looking for camping shows who have had weird experiences that could potentially be cryptid related. This show fits that bill.
All kinds of stuff started making noise.
In this video, the host Bear documents the different strange things that happened while he was setting up his camp, starting his campfire, and then late at night and early morning when he was in his tent. He did say the area he was camping in has had Bigfoot activity, and he did leave an apple on the table for gifting. I'm not sure if Bear's an actual Bigfoot researcher or if he's just had a bunch of encounters with Bigfoot. Either way, the video is entertaining, and I give Bear credit.
What in the world? That was not a normal goose.
Next, I'm spotlighting a fellow podcast on the Untold Radio Network, Discover Sasquatch. The title of this episode is Quest for Oklahoma's Cryptids. Host Chris Reinhardt was back doing his podcast after being off air for over a month. In his first show back, he had guest Brian Terrell of Oklahoma's Red Dirt Cryptid Investigations. Chris first met Brian when they both had experiences with the strange humming phenomenon. The hum Brian recorded and sent to Chris had the same hertz range as the hum Chris had experienced.
I could hear it on my end.
Yeah, no, we can hear it perfect. I didn't know it was nothing at the beginning. Keep on playing it one more time. I'm going to go back to the anomaly. You guys can all see it on the spectrogram right there in the middle, right here.
One of the things that jumped out to me during Chris and Brian's conversation was when Brian was talking about one of his Bigfoot sightings. He told Chris how human-like the Bigfoot looked. With me leaning more toward the flesh and blood camp, I was glad to hear him describe the Bigfoot like that. Up next, I'm spotlighting a recent episode from the Abnormal Investigations YouTube channel, which features our own Chris Cyrus. In this episode, Chris joins Mike, Jesse, and Randy as they cover a variety of topics from Bigfoot and Dogman to the paranormal and a general overview of cryptid investigation.
And you'd think, what kind of creature would make such a noise and an impact like that, and you would think it can't be a bodybuilder. You could be ripped up to the core, but it doesn't change the nature. These things are strong, and they will do things that make the normal human being like, what? Why? Very interesting case, too.
Chris shares his thoughts on high strangeness occurrences in his home state of New Jersey. He recounts some alleged Bigfoot and Dogman encounters that happened in the Pine Barrens and Sussex County. Chris even touches on one case of reported demonic possession. He also shares his thoughts on the state of cryptid research and goes in depth on how he believes investigators should approach this mysterious topic moving forward. And finally, the conference and festivals. The first event we're spotlighting is the Penn, Ohio Paranormal Conference 3, being held on Saturday, March 29th at the Tiffany Banquet Center in Brookfield, Ohio. Doors open at 10 a.m. and it goes until 6. You can buy your tickets at the door, day of, or online. Jamie and Jenny King will be emceeing the festivities. Some of this year's speakers include Amy Boo, Fred Saluga, Jim Sparks, and Dale Rogers. I attended this event last year and the place was loaded with fantastic vendors and authors. Timothy Wayne Williams was there, and I bought one of my 2 paintings of his there. I plan on going back this year, and I hope Tim is there again. If you see me, please stop me and say hi. Next is the 2nd annual Park City Bigfoot Festival being held in Park City, Kentucky. Now, this festival is until October 11th, but the reason why I'm spotlighting this one so early is because our own Toby Crum is part of the team behind this event. So I wanted to make sure I did my part promoting this event and getting it on everyone's radar. The lineup of speakers include Alex Petikoff, David Taters Wickham, Ryan LeBlanc, and Dusty Ruth, with a keynote speaker being Ken Gerhardt. This one is on my calendar, and I'm definitely planning on attending. I hope to see you there. And that wraps up this episode's Bigfoot Spotlight. You'll find the links to everything I covered in the video's description. If there's a recent or upcoming Bigfoot live stream, film, or event you'd like me to spotlight, shoot me a message or email with the details. Mike, take us out.
All right, and that's a wrap for episode 14. Make sure to check out the video's description for more information on the segments we covered, and if you haven't already, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share here at Untold and the CARC. If you have questions, a story to share, or want us to investigate your Bigfoot encounter, shoot us an email or drop us a line in the comments. For Chuck, Chris, and Toby, I'm Mike Luci signing off. We appreciate each and every one of you for watching. We'll see you next time.
Program is distributed by the Untold Radio Network. All rights reserved.